Right. I think we are able to resume from our break. Welcome.
Thank you.
And just introduce yourself if you would, please. And then we will turn the floor over to you.
My name is Ginger Casper, and I'm currently serving as EPIC's Vice President of the board. I wanted to say, but I think she's gone, that I really appreciated Jessica's comments. So I wanted to, Jessica, she was our.
Oh, yes.
I also really wanted to provide some understanding to the interim superintendent at Western Heights. We truly understand, and it's very tough work that person has been tasked with. So our hearts go out to you, genuinely. So I am a mother, a caregiver, a community member, and as I said, I currently serve as the vice chair of EPIC's Charter School Boards of Education. And I'm speaking from my experience with our new board and leadership team. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I deeply appreciate the privilege I have to use my voice. It's my intent today to be informative, not performative. So, EPIC Charter School's mission is fulfilling every student's individual potential by personalizing an education plan that focuses on a school and family partnership to achieve optimal student performance. Our goal is to create future-ready graduates that are equipped to succeed in our ever-changing society. The Oklahoma State Department of Education's vision is to ensure each student in Oklahoma has equitable access to high-quality public education that inspires deep learning and leads to success. It is the duty of each of us to work together in order to serve our students and to be accountable to Oklahoma taxpayers. EPIC has been under well-deserved scrutiny for years, and we have been effecting substantive change over the past 13 months. 13 months of intense work, not only uncovering and examining systemic issues, but also empowering our students, teachers, administrators, and executive leadership into the cohesive team that is here today. In my opinion, there's no excuse for running a school as a for-profit organization. We simply must align every incentive in education for educating and empowering our community. EPIC has a decade's worth of layers accumulated due to profit motive and power centered with an elite few. As each layer presents, our new executive leadership has faced it, worked with our board to bring EPIC in line with our new aspirations. We're highly committed to being transparent. We've demonstrated it. We want to work alongside partners in the State Department of Education to provide guidance and to ensure that our policies and procedures are compliant and in the best interest of our school and our community. Some of the most difficult transformations are almost complete, and I'm going to list a few. Severing all ties with EPIC's former management, establishing a new Board of Education comprised of business and civic leaders without any previous relationship to EPIC management, creating, for the first time, new checks and balances to strengthen internal controls and ensure fiduciary oversight by our Board of Education. Consolidating the two school districts will streamline services and create organizational productivity. Investing in new software to enhance operational efficiency and shift away from the proprietary, customized software created by EPIC's former management. This investment means that the State Department of Education will no longer have to sort through two systems for key data regarding student outcomes. Additionally, we are contracting with two new third-party vendors for data collection and analysis that we can rely on to be objective and without vested interest in EPIC. Overhauling the truancy and student withdrawal procedures, our superintendent requested this audit. We're utilizing new software instead of EYS connected software to ensure transparency and data compliance. And work has already begun to prepare the administrators to utilize traditional daily attendance procedures to establish reliable data streams until this issue can be resolved by working on it together with the State Department of Education. Transforming an internal culture. We did away with that bonus system for administrators, and we've revised employee agreements. Previous management established a system of employee contracts which paid 400 administrators a base salary well under market rate and utilized a bonus structure to hold these people to their organization for an additional 6 months in order to receive a full and fair salary. As of fiscal year 2022, these 400 administrators will no longer be paid on a bonus structure and instead have a new employee contract with a base salary comparable to market rate. Over the coming weeks, EPIC's Board of Education and its executive leadership team will work hand in hand with the State Department of Education to establish a corrective plan of action that is meaningful, measurable, accountable, and sustainable. We have serious challenges ahead. I believe each of you here today are here for the same reason that we're here. Children are relying on us, students are relying on us for hopeful, tireless, intentional leadership. I believe our current leadership is dedicated to transformative change in favor of our students and community. Thank you. Now, beyond that I've prepared for you, I noted 4 areas as the discussion was occurring that the board may have more questions, where the board may have more questions. And I certainly am not the person that's expert in each of these areas. But to the extent that I can outline them to help bring these people forward, or however it is that you can get what you need today. I noted that EYS, let me do this an easier way. We handed you a timeline. I want to first say that Susan Ogle's name is misspelled. It is Agel. And I apologize to Susan for that. This was prepared in haste, to say the least. But I think the timeline is critically important and what EPIC has gone through. So in severing those initial ties with EYS, there was a huge vacuum in leadership, in management, in power. Power had been siloed with 3 people. And it was very tumultuous for us in this kind of yellow period of time right after those ties were severed. And then we went through another almost equally, maybe more so tumultuous severance of ties. And that was with our deputy superintendent of comms, our attorney, our PR firm, and our internal auditor. For my judgment, these things were done in order for us to get to this green zone where we do have a superintendent firmly empowered at the top of this organization. And this is what it took to get there. It wasn't pretty, and it was very, very hard. As far as the internal auditor goes, I would like to point out that one of my first duties as a board member was to come here and talk to you about the monies that EPIC owed you, monies that were illegally taken. And when I joined this board, I cannot tell you how much I care for students. I'm the mother of genuinely anyone who wants a mom. I'm here. But we have a duty to taxpayers, and we are not to play fast and loose with these monies. And someone has to stand up and say no. And we're going to tell the truth, and we're going to be cooperative, and we're going to do whatever hard work it takes to get to the bottom of it. But when a system's been designed to deceive, when it's been layered and layered and layered to cover up profit motive, this is really difficult to do. When the hires that were made were perhaps in favor of that system, maybe unwittingly. This is hard to suss out. At any rate, when the internal auditor's work was presented, it was her work that suggested to this board that we owed you $300,000, when in fact we owed you over $9 million. It was work that we could not rely upon. There was nothing nefarious. As far as the algorithm goes, I want to let you speak to our very competent technical team, our people who deliver this technology, and ask these questions. Moreover, I want every vendor that contracts with every public school to not have the power to black box anything and to scrub data before it hits a regulator. And as far as enrollment goes, it's very challenging in this charter world. It's very challenging in this virtual world. And what this board and this school want to do is help you create the very best policies so that we can meet children's needs, meet students' needs who are very different, very divergent, have varied interests, and do it in a way that is fair and equitable to all the other students as well. That is what we want. That's why I'm here. So I really appreciate your time. I'm going to try to get out of your way and let you ask questions. If you have any questions directly to me, please. But I don't want to inhibit the experts that we have here coming up and speaking.
You said the new enrollment, or not enrollment, I'm sorry, the new employee contracts that don't have bonuses will go into effect what school year?
2022.
They were this past June, just when we started that. So it was for the 21-22 school year.
It was for 2021 first.
I think, I mean, you may want to start with Bart because he'll.
Well, no, I just want to be clear. So it was retroactive for the, it was retroactive for the school year that just ended, is what you're saying. Okay. Thank you.
Walk me through the color code.
So the color code is essentially red was under, I think about this like I'm going to date myself anyway, like the EYS era, you know, if that's how you see it. And then the yellow would be this transitional era. And then the green would be where we feel that we've elevated the leadership to the place that they should be and empowered them with the management skills and tools that they needed.
Can you clarify the board members, those who have ties and don't have ties? The only one that doesn't, according to this, is Tatum and Porter. I don't see Porter and Tatum on the green side, the very first top right.
Okay, so none of the current board members have ties to EYS. That would be Montgomery, Campbell, Casper, Porter, Long, Hammonds, Otto.
Okay, but when they served back in May through December 1st,
so
those folks did have ties.
Well, Montgomery came on the board during the period where EYS was in control. She was brought to the board by Bart, not by an EYS member. So we're not, but however, Dr. Sino was brought to the board by an EYS member. So that would be the only person in our minds that was brought to the board specifically by an EYS person, this small elite group that was controlling the school. Then Waiwana came in with Bart asked Waiwana to be vetted for the board. And then the rest of us came in after that through community strategy.
Is the auditor that we were talking about when you were doing your presentation on the left?
It is.
The red and yellow.
So this is just about personnel and administrate, like people, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of categorizing the people who
Categories.
went with kind of EYS's crew, so to speak, and then this transition phase, and then where we feel comfortable that we're now aligned under BART.
Because I guess, and I think I know the answer, but because this is just about people, but just the definition of that transition phase and making it sound like the transition phase is complete, though it still sounds like there's some, so
Absolutely.
there's still transition going on in other areas, right?
Yes, and there's still, we're hoping to give you more materials that are coded in this manner so you can kind of see, but yeah, we're still dealing with issues that started in the red and have come all the way through to our period that we're here in the green. We're dealing with issues that started in the yellow, and new things. And then we're dealing with that. We have a few issues that started here right in this green period where it's like, okay, we've made a mistake, we've made an error. So,
Well, and I don't know who best to ask this question, but it sounds like the algorithm is still kind of in this yellow.
Right. The algorithm would
Period.
fall in
Right.
the red category as to how it got to us. And then we discovered it here through BART. And then here we are in the green, and it's gone after the first quarter, but it was still at play.
I don't want to get too technical, but I think it's helpful to understand, what does this black box mean? What does it mean that we can't know what the algorithm is or does, or change it? Or I'm not technical enough to understand how all that works. And so,
sure. And I want to invite Roger.
Because I would think, and it sounds like this is not the case, that if there is an algorithm that's written that is brought to the attention that this is potentially not right, presumably you could change the algorithm.
And we have run into some very serious problems with this proprietary software issue. And we have made all haste in getting rid of it as fast as possible. You can imagine that transferring your entire school software over, and this team has done it. They did it. They made it happen because we refused to.
So you're saying the algorithm is now gone?
It is gone.
Okay, because I didn't get that earlier. Okay, so
Okay.
when did it end?
I'm going to let Roger talk
Okay,
because
let's
I don't
talk
want to
specifics
give you
on
the
that.
wrong
Yes.
End of quarter one, end of the
Of
first
what
quarter
year?
of this current year.
Okay, end of Q1, so that's end of March.
Oh, no, school related, end of the first 9 weeks, if you will.
Which would be, can you give me a month and a date?
November
Month-
1,
month?
something like that.
What's that?
November 1,
21,
that's correct.
2021. Okay.
Can you talk to why is it so hard to change this algorithm, and kind of
Well,
the
we just-
specifics around what?
There's multiple layers, but let me start by saying this, that in 2021, the intent of the algorithm, number one, it's all related to truancy. So truancy is if a kid does not attend or doesn't do any instructional activities for a period of 3 weeks. In 2021, we gave the teacher had the ability to withdraw the kid when they saw that the kid hadn't done the 3 weeks of work. That's a really big fundamental way that the process was done in 2021. So the teacher's the one that says, kid hasn't done work, he's withdrawn. So when we get to the end of the quarter, there's the rule of 72. 72 instructional assignments meant the kid was in full attendance, right? It's very confusing, so I'm trying to make sure I walk through this properly. So if we get to that point and the kid is less than 72, we've got attendance records that have to be reported to the state. The bot was trying to have the 14-1 pattern look a certain way so that it did not conflict with what the teacher said. The teacher said if the kid was not withdrawn, if he made it all the way to the end of the quarter, then the teacher's basically saying the kid was not in full attendance, but he was not truant.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to make sure, well, I say we, the bot was trying to make sure that the attendance data supported what the teacher said. We didn't want to turn in data and the State Department says, well, wait a minute, you just turned in data that shows 15 absences all in a row. The teacher would have been the one that would have withdrawn the kid at that point. That's the basic premise, is that the teacher would have done their job and withdrawn the student. So it's the law is really complicated and very hard to deal with. And so that's what was come up with. The other thing is that the instructional.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure, no,
Can I
please.
ask something specific about that? So it sounds like potentially the bot was created so that it wouldn't automatically drop a kid, but a teacher could go and drop a kid because they aren't. But because of how you measure attendance quarterly, because of that, if for whatever reason, if the bot didn't re-up it, then the kid would have been dropped even if they were doing work that, isn't necessarily captured until the end of the quarter.
You couldn't figure out the 72 assignments until you get to the very end of the quarter.
Right.
So you almost had to wait to the end and then distribute and then look at the attendance the way we were doing attendance at the time. We weren't doing it as Mr. Clark talked about on a daily basis. We are probably 90% going to go to that next year, a combination of the 72 assignments, but then also doing some kind of daily work. I think what we're going to do is a combination of things of bell ringers, if you will, and the teachers in the room know what that is. There'll be something that the student does every day to basically say, I'm here, possibly an SEL, social emotional learning activity that'll be graded. That, or we've got, with the new technology, we have the ability with the primary curriculums that the kids are doing their classwork in, we can pull the data day by day and know kid did work that day, so he's in attendance. We have objective proof that he did an assignment that day.
When did that change?
We've not done that yet. That technology. That technology is not quite there. We really think we'll have that for the start of school next year.
You mean if this fall?
Of this fall, yes.
I
So I want to make sure that
Yeah.
the 14.1 is clear why that shows up as a pattern. It was nothing nefarious. It was nothing. It was really in answer to the truancy law. The truancy law says the 3-week pattern.
Curious.
3-week pattern of no attendance. Teacher should have withdrawn the student if indeed that was the case.
So I think this is not a question for you, so I can hold it if others have questions for you.
Yeah, it's not a
Identify
question.
yourself.
I don't have a question. I just want to like.
Wait,
make sure we're-
wait.
Before we start, could you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Roger Kimball. I'm Deputy Superintendent of Technology.
Thank you.
Sure.
That was what I was. I just want to make sure, like, this whole report was based on a complaint filed by someone who's no longer at the school.
Board member.
And a board member. And all we're here to do is hear about this, consider the recommendations.
And no action.
We're not taking action today. This is a really long board meeting.
Yeah, but Trent, in all fairness, Brad had a lengthy presentation with no action today. And
No, I'm sorry.
We're just trying to, because we're
I
not
just
going to
want
be
to
able.
direct our questions towards the end goal. of, like,
Okay,
what
because
we're
I was
trying
going
to
to say, because
understand.
if we're working towards making a decision next month, we need to get as much information today as we can while everybody's.
Fair.
Okay.
Well, I think
So-
understanding the algorithm, like that to me, like, I like, that's like the core of like, are they doing something that is,
Well,
wrong or
there's an
not.
algorithm problem. You've discovered it. We're taking steps to correct it.
No, they've already removed it in
It's gone.
November of last year is what he said.
So kind of circling and bringing everything
That's the
back
gist of it.
together
Yeah.
after hearing you speak. Thank you for clarifying a lot of things for me personally, but in reading between the lines of everything that you addressed, it really is admitting to things that were wrongfully done that should not have taken place, and therefore 780,000 for the attendance, the truancy, that self-admission that is owed, 803,000 for bonuses and payroll. That's also telling me that that shouldn't have been done because you've removed that, and that's no longer going to take place. So I think for that next meeting, as you mentioned, it's kind of circling back as to the actions or the conversations that need to be had for those next steps. Am I
So-
understanding and?
Am I able, I mean, you guys are in control. Am I able to discuss the enrollment situation?
Sure.
So in EPIC, I just want to explain how we enroll a kid and to explain the numbers as they are. So a kid enrolls, parent enrolls a student, and it goes into our system. It is not reported to the state. At that point in time, the data is there. We've got to get more information. We've got to get transcripts on high school kids. There's things we have to vet before the kid is into the system. The other piece that has to happen is that we have an individual learning plan. We call it the IOP. It's been around since the inception of the school. The IOP is a meeting between the teacher and the parent and the child. And all the expectations for that year are set up in that meeting, including ordering any kind of hardware. If the kid needs a Chromebook, if they need a hotspot for internet access. Also, in that meeting is where the parent and the teacher select what digital core curriculum the kid is going to use, because we offer a variety. In the past year, we offered, I don't know, 13, 14. This year, we trimmed it down to 7. But the kid's got to have that to go forward and do the work, right? So that meeting meets muster for the definition of an instructional activity. Instructional activity is one of the definitions is a meeting between the kid and the teacher. So we've got to have that IOP meeting, because the kid cannot get started until he's got that meeting. He doesn't even have a digital core. So that has to happen. And so throughout my 9+ years or 8+ years at Epic, that's just a tenet in the way we do business. So we do not report a kid to the state until the IOP meeting is held. And we report the first day of enrollment in the kid as that date, as the IOP. So he can enroll. We've got kids that already enrolled, right? For say they enrolled in April. They have not held the IOP. We have not started that process. We'll start that process somewhere in July. But even a kid that enrolls late, he enrolls, I'm going to take another example. He enrolls October 1. The IOP isn't held until, say, October 5th. That would be the first instructional activity. That would be the date that we would send that data up to the state saying, this kid is ours, and this is the first instructional activity is the IOP. So I want to make sure that there's nothing nefarious going on. The data that Brad showed, there is a problem when we're digging into 2020-21, why the IOP was not the first. The enrollment date did not match up with the first instructional activity. It is, if we can go back, I'm pretty sure we can go back to teachers' records and prove that it happened. It wasn't reported, and I know that's on us. We probably should have caught that and did not. I can say that for the data we're about to certify for the 21-22 school year, you won't see those kind of issues at all.
So are you saying what you just said, would that address this 8.5-day average gap that Brad was presenting? Is that what you're talking about right now?
That is.
Yeah, okay.
It really isn't a gap. I mean, we reported that, but in actuality, that did not happen.
Yeah, I see.
That I will swear to. And I think we can prove that. And that's been an Epic tenet since the school was founded.
I appreciate that clarity. So the teachers have record of these conversations they had and the dates.
The IOP, we've got PDFs of the IOP where the parent's there and the parent has to assert. They attest to, I will do these. I will show up for state testing. I will show up at meetings. I will do my part in the contract between the teacher, contract really between the school and the family. Yes.
So I have a question, and I think what I hear you all describing here and believe the focus is, around kids and their education. So one question I do have is how you're able to have a percentage of students that we identified in the report, I think it was 5% maybe, that were absent 50% of the time, or 9% of the students that were absent 50% of the time, or and I think 5% at 75% of the time. How does that happen? Like, how going forward, I'm not sure who can explain how that occurred, but this is part of the finding within this investigative report that we did. And I want to make certain day one from here forward, that's not happening, because that's not acceptable. As a parent, as a teacher, right? We know that kind of connection must improve.
That I'm not prepared to answer that. I'm sorry, I don't know that, but I do know that going next year, going for the 22-23 school year, that we are, as Mr. Clark talked about, we are going to do a daily check-in, if you will, with the kids basically saying, I'm here, and do an activity, either that and we're going to pull information from the digital core, their curriculum, Where also teachers put in log entries when they had meetings, because meetings count as an instructional activity. We'll be able to count that. We're also going to count every time a kid has a formative. We're going to count every time the kid goes to a state test. If they do any of these activities, that's going to count as the kid being present. So we are going to do it on a per day
But
basis.
is that learning?
Excuse
No,
me?
Is that learning?
Well,
I mean, the point here is,
well, I'm talking about truancy. Truancy in a my understanding, I had kids that went to brick and mortar, and I have a daughter that's a teacher in the Oklahoma system. Truancy is basically the kid shows up. He didn't have to do any work. He's walked. I mean, I've been in class with a kid that walked in school and put his head on the desk. He was not truant. And so as far as from the truancy standpoint, that's how we can say, is the kid absent or not? As far as the educational value, that's a different story, and that's a different conversation. I don't know that our reporting attendance really equate. I would ask you that question. Does that equate to a kid doing academic work in a brick and mortar? Probably
well,
not.
It's one piece of information, but it collectively, we're talking about 6,000 some students, which is larger than many, many districts in Oklahoma. And so this is a large number of students. That's why this is a big deal. This is statewide. And there are kids who are being served really well, and we know that, and we've heard about that. But we also are very concerned about how all of this collectively can change. And I applaud the work that we're seeing that's reflected here. I think this is very important steps to getting there, and the intention to serve well is not just being disputed.
Can I ask a question? When you said the 6,000, are you referring to the
out
14 and 1?
Being absent 50% of the time. Right?
Yeah.
6,436 students were absent more than 50% of the time.
And a 5% of them, which I think is a 3,000 number probably,
3,399
were absent 75% of the time.
Is that a function of the algorithm doing that though?
I don't know.
Well, and that's what I guess I have two questions. I promise to not go too long, but, and I don't know who's best to answer that. First, I'm guessing maybe it's you. On the 4,819 students that were the 14 kids, have you internally looked to see, because I get now like that why the algorithm was built, like that you helped me understand that, so I appreciate that. Did they do work in between those? Like, to Estella's point, the 780 that's tied to those 4,819 kids, are they just victims of the algorithm and they actually did do work, or are they, the algorithm kids and that money is owed?
I can't answer. All I can tell is from the data. I'm a tech guy.
Yeah.
I'm a data person. All I know is that if the teacher had the 3-week period where the kid was not, where they couldn't get in touch with the kid at all, the kid should have been withdrawn for truancy. Right. So the kid is doing something. I don't know to what level. I mean, we'd have to check the academic progress of the kid.
Well, I guess I'm just asking if Epic, and you're right, it's probably not you, but have you gone back and talked to teachers and like of these 4,819 kids to say, should they have been dropped and they weren't because of the algorithm, or kind of where, like? My
understanding is that we legally can't.
Just don't know.
That was Dr. Steno's argument, that we were dropping too many students, that we were inappropriately dropping. I mean, if they don't meet the criteria, we can't drop them.
Right.
I mean, we don't have that ability. It's got to be it's stipulated in the law, the 3-week period, or I mean, there could be medical and things where the parent says, I want the kid out, but 3 weeks of no activity is the only thing that can be done in that regard, even if the kid's not working. But as long as he meets the attendance requirements, he remains in our school, which you could see where that could be interesting.
I guess we really wouldn't have an answer to that in this meeting anyway, because there needs to be further investigation into that. But also keep in mind that I can see how that piece can also fall through the cracks when you can't compare a school like Epic to a brick and mortar school. Because the way that they get their assignments is they'll do it on a weekly basis. They'll get assignments for that whole week. But if you have a child who's an overachiever and who can finish assignments, in 3 days that we're supposed to be due in 5 days, well, that individual will get the credit for that entire time. Whereas something in a brick and mortar school, you can't do that. So I think that there's something to be said for the way that Epic structures and delivers the education, because each individual student is very different in the way they're going to receive it. So it really deems, work for the tech side to be able to have accountability as to who really is there, who's finishing those assignments per se, or for that week without being counted absent. And anyway, it just goes in deeper, but it's not something
Well, and I
we'll be
think
able to
that's
have
why,
that here.
yeah, I think that's right. And I think that's why, my other question was going to be, if you're requiring daily check-ins, I agree, like, is it getting you information that is valuable or not? But B, it kind of flies in the face of you have a lot of students that are not going to check in daily, because that's the whole point of being a part.
That is one of the
They're,
challenges.
traveling with their gymnastics team or whatever it is, and they're doing all their work on the weekend or whatever that looks like. So is it going too far in the other direction?
And we're in you're spot on. And that's the challenge that we're trying to deal with, is how to do this to where it's fair to the families, but it's fair to you folks, and you folks understand it and will say, you'll codify that and say, yes, this is, so we're not.
And is it best for the student? Like, what's
Right,
best for
yeah.
the student?
Correct. Well, we're always about, and kids come to us because they can do their work on their own time. For example,
And
and immediately is
taxpayer,
what happens
because this
what
is
happens on a
under-
Saturday or Sunday. If the kid doesn't do his work on Thursday, Friday, but does it Saturday, Sunday.
Sure.
So there's a wrinkle right there. What if he doesn't have access to the internet where he can't, there's just,
Well, I assume that flexibility is a reason why a lot of kids go to Epic.
it's exactly why they go. And so we don't want to remove the flexibility, but yet we want to be beyond reproach and not be here having this same conversation. We're all about trying to figure this out 100%. I do want to make one other mention that we went from a proprietary system that had been built over a period of 7 years that EYS owned. And that rug got pulled out from under us on May 9th, whenever
What year, to be clear, because we have 2 years going.
May 9th of 2021. Yeah, this
May
past,
26th,
Yeah.
2020.
there you go. This, a little over a year ago, we had no SIS. Mass would not, WinGauge, which this is one of the systems that talks to the wave to report data, doesn't work. We could not use what we had. We needed to switch. And in the middle of all this, we went through a massive change to use PowerSchool. We went through an implementation of which should take 15 months. We did it in a matter of probably 3, and we're still implementing as we go. It was crazy. And we're still working with them to modify this is a publicly traded company. PowerSchool is the largest SIS in the world, actually. And we're working with them to try to modify the system and find ways to use the system to record the information relative to attendance and so forth in a proper way that fits what the state law is working. So we've got that edge that we're dealing with as well. So we're trying to be fair to the taxpayer and be honest with the money. We're trying to be fair to you guys in the law that's there. We're trying to be fair to the students. And then we've got this other thing that we're dealing with, software. So this is not a lack of trying. We are doing our utmost to get in the trenches and try to do the right thing. And it's almost, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but it's almost offensive to say in some regards that we are not what Western Heights is. And I think we're getting some unearned runs here. We are really trying to solve this problem. We very much are. So that's my opinion only. That may not be the opinion of these guys, but anyway, I'll be quiet now.
Well, that there is a marked distinction, and it is about the approach of wanting to help solve the problems. So that's really different, and we recognize that. So just also to mention, the recommendation for probation is because of intensive work that needs to happen at a daily level with our agency and your school in order to ensure we're not back in another place where money, you can't retrieve, you can't go back, you can't redo things next school year. Again, it's got to be real time, and that's the point. But how we got there is also different from Western Heights, and yet where you are today is different. This is about making certain that intensive support is there.
Can I ask one final question? And I think it's maybe for Brad, I don't know. About to that specific point. I mean, it sounds like both of you are saying, both sides are saying, you know, they're bending over backwards to try and fix this and do, you know, figure it out. You guys are working hand in hand with them as partners to do that. So all of that daily work, it sounds like, is happening. So why probation?
Just same as sovereign. Okay, that has financial aspects, and that one also has the need for build the capacity within their leadership within the school and their board were underdeveloped. And we are still talking about things that don't happen that impede the rest of the state from being able to move forward because of the need for all the information to be in at a certain deadline, and it doesn't happen, for example, with sovereign, okay? Or for example, if we were to be dependent on, and we are, information that comes in that then affects every other school district. We need, and we owe all the schools, the most confidence that is going to be point forward, done well, and this is a very new board.
I agree.
That has not completed all of their training either. And so this is the other piece. We're not talking about board members that have, I mean, the potential is great, okay? But we're talking about individuals stepping forward saying, we signed up to try to help to pull this out of where it was. That's admirable. But it is not, that alone isn't going to make that change happen without the supervision that's needed of probation. Supervision is probably the wrong word. What word would you give?
Well, just to maybe add one element there. In November of 2020, we identified non-compliance in some of these same areas that we're talking about today. And we were told they will be fixed. That won't happen again. Financial transactions will be approved.
But that's a different.
It is a different board.
It's the same, the school's the school. That's what we're dealing with here. Hundreds of millions of dollars and tens of thousands of kids.
I understand, but I mean, even you all have said, I mean, it's night and day, the difference between.
The intentions of people matter, certainly, but the reality of where we are is significant. There is a need for probation to ensure that this is going to improve and that if it doesn't, steps can be taken. And we owe that to the kids and to the taxpayers.
I think probation is more support, more resources, but tighter oversight. And I believe some of the individuals who are here, like said, we can take this and turn it in a positive direction. We want to work with you going forward. That's what we're recommending.
Yeah. Okay. And all right, yes.
Do you need to say, oh, I would just say that I'm not advocating for probation for sure. I am advocating for cooperation. This doesn't feel cooperative to me. If it was cooperative, I feel like we would have had time to work together and kind of talk through more of this.
So July is and you may not know this, but every July, every school district in the state is going to come before this board for accreditation. And so that means you're going to have to make a decision for every school, for every district. We have been working really rapidly to try, after we got all the documents in April, to bring this as swiftly as we could, because obviously we're taking a lot of time today to try to understand both the origin of how things have occurred and what needs to go forward. And as a reminder, I mean, we're talking about many, many families impacted. We want to see this successful.
As do we.
As I have no doubt. that we do
Absolutely.
either.
After all the work that we've been doing, it feels a little punitive, honestly, because it feels like we've invited, we've really begged for help as a board. It's very similar to the Western Heights situation, where it's very easy to sit back and say, well, you can get this person, you can. No, you can't. No. No one is running to the door to save you. You better figure it out. So that's the situation that we've been in. And I'm really proud of how far we've gotten, honestly. Now, if I can get true cooperative help, really, that's all we want, right? And that's the only way forward for any community, is to cooperate with each other and come to each other with respect. And so, yeah, I want that more than anything. I don't know if you still have more questions that you want to answer. I will say that we intend to provide much. We just didn't have the opportunity to put that together for you in a 24-hour
I do have a
period.
question for the attorneys. Like, now that this has been brought publicly, I know the email said, embargo, don't share, don't talk, all that stuff. When the report came out, is it now appropriate for us as board members to reach out to Epic individually to ask questions over the next 30 days as we come to the probation recommendation and the action that might take place next month?
So my clear legal advice is you can't make decisions as a board
individually.
Outside of this meeting. So you want to proceed. You want to proceed with caution, and I think we should. To your point, the facilitation of the information getting to you is really important. I mean, you need to have all of the facts and all of the information before you make this decision. I do want to not definitively say how the best way to do that is, because we all know that we need to comply with open meetings.
Yeah.
So my commitment is that we will work out some path for you to get the information, for everyone to feel heard, and for you to make a fully informed decision.
Well, there's a lot of names on here and in the report and allusions to names. Like, I'd like to talk to them.
Right. And I think that there's ways that can be done, but I'm not going to just give you a carte blanche saying this could work. So there we go.
To that end, though, we do have Janice here who can speak to some of the financial issues if you have direct questions that you'd like to ask now. Otherwise,
My brain's melted.
okay.
I really thank you for coming. Really, thank you.
Yeah, I do.
This is 76 pages to digest, and
That's right.
by the time I've slept and eaten and played with my kids and gone to basketball games, it's not a lot of time. So I'm sure we'll have a lot more questions.
If you would introduce yourself and then I think you have something you want to share.
Sure. My name is Denise Wynn. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Finance at Epic. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but I will just open with just a quick statement, because I know you're all starving and you've been here serving us for a long time today. I came to Epic in February of 2021 from Edmond Public Schools. It was a very tough decision to decide to jump on. I think it was 5 months that they were looking for a CFO, just like Western Heights is now. And in 90 days, we turned around years of not best practice in the financials. It is honestly the hardest thing I've ever done. I can't even quantify the number of hours and the amount of work that I and my team did during that time period. To sever ties with EYS 94 days or so after I started, and to take full ownership of running the school district as an executive leadership team and a board was nothing short of a miracle in our minds at that time, because we were told it wasn't possible. We couldn't run the school without them. They held all the power. And it was literally having a rug pulled out from under you as a team and a board. Lot of blind spots, things you don't see coming, because there was so much hidden. Ginger talked about the layers. That's really, really important to this conversation. And I would simply say, and I will answer any specific question that you have either today or between now and July 28th. Everything that was done with the best intentions and believing that we were doing it correctly. I understand that there are some irregularities around the approval of the bonuses in the minutes. If I thought that those were not approved, that order to pay those bonuses would have never gone to payroll. HR was involved as well. It was a team working on that. I did not do any of that myself. I did not prepare the payroll. I do not prepare payroll. So I think that there are very clear misunderstandings about the intentions of the people involved in what happened. And when it's represented on a very factual and what may be correct in fact manner, without the, okay, everyone present thought we did it right, and now we understand we didn't do it right. As far as the minutes go, it leads to a picture of something fraudulent or something nefarious, and that just did not happen. Bart Banfield did not do anything nefarious with regards to bonuses. I will testify that on a Bible. I did not do anything nefarious with regards to anything on finances. I took a huge chance with my career to come to Epic from Edmond. And I'm proud of the work that we have done. I'm proud of our board. I'm proud of our leadership team. I'm proud of Bart Banfield. I'm proud of myself, frankly. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I'm almost in tears thinking about Western Heights and what they have in front of them, because I know how hard it is. And I want them to be successful too, just like we are on the path to being successful. So, I mean, to the extent there's a fact in front of you, X, Y, and Z happened, I would like to talk about the letters of the alphabet that come before X, Y, and Z, and the understanding of the people that were there in the room when it happened in the context of the moment, before we make a call to say that Epic is not doing enough or has done something criminal. By all means, no way. So that's all that I wanted to say, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And I think that you said that well. And certainly we know that this is not a statement about anything related to criminality. That's not for the Department of Education to make that determination. The main thing is there's high need, obviously, for all things to be successful with a lot of support. And you have stepped up to try to make a strong impact. And I don't think there's anyone in the room that has a question about that. Doesn't appear to me. But I appreciate the dialogue today, and I know there'll be more conversation as well. And we will see if this concludes.
I have
for
one
now.
more
Okay.
question, please, Joy. And thank you for everybody's patience. This is obviously a very important topic. So I think it's important that we got a lot of information for today. So for the board member, were you there in this meeting? We're talking about where the bonuses were
An
approved.
executive session?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Well, you
Can't
so you
talk
attended
about-
the meeting, the board meeting.
I did attend the board meeting.
Okay. Was it the intent? I'm not asking you to divulge anything that was said in executive session. Okay. But was it your impression when you got back in the public segment and everything, you guys moved forward with the bonuses and you guys were good with that?
That's the first time anyone's asked me that question. That is my impression.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So to your knowledge, there were none of your board colleagues that had a problem with it.
To my knowledge, there are none of my colleagues, but someone should ask them for sure.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Board members, we now have last item on the agenda. And that is 9D.
Ready?
Yes, we see.
Hmm.
Ready?
All right.
Okay, I believe this is likely the last item on the
Surely
agenda.
not.
Yeah. So last month, we gave an update on House Bill 1775 and the reporting that's required through the rules that you all adopted in an emergency meeting last year, and then more recently as a permanent fashion. I can report to you that yesterday we did receive the governor's declaration that approved these rules for permanency. So that is done. The rules that you all voted on in March will become permanent not too long now.
And then that then is posted, and maybe they already are they already on the SDC in order for the guidance to go out to the districts? Is that already in place, or what will that process look like? Because they are a little bit different than what the emergency.
They are, and we've had those rules posted, the amended rules, if you will, the permanent rules posted on the department's website since you all voted on them. I think it was, sorry, I was looking at Travis, in March.
February,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
It was March, yep.
But they go into effect in July 1st.
So they have to go through another process before they're officially in effect.
Okay.
But I think we can rest assured that that's going to happen.
It's a done deal.
Yeah. That's typical for
So
every
districts would
rule.
need to adhere to them starting in the 22-23 school year.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, last month reported that we were working through a complaint that we'd received, and we're trying to get some access to the training that was provided to staff. And so I'm here to present to you today that we have concluded our review of that complaint. And although we haven't sent the formal notice to the school district, we have notified them that a letter will be coming to notify them that we did conclude there was a violation of House Bill 1775. The letter will come, and as a result of what's in administrative rule, the deficiency will be recommended to you all at the July meeting.
The district we're talking about is which one?
Tulsa, Tulsa Public Schools.
Tulsa Public. Okay. All right.
Are we getting copies of it?
Sure. Yep. And I can tell you, in our minds, it was a close call. The training, remember, we needed access to it so we could hear, get the audio portion to understand the training itself. And so we gathered that information. The district very cooperatively provided it to us once they got it from the vendor. And in conclusion, it was a close call, but I believe the spirit of that training or the design of it was contradictory to.
In violation of the law.
It was excuse me, you actually went through it, like it's 20 minutes and then you took tests at the end.
That's correct.
Is it your understanding that the district is no longer going to use that training?
Yeah, actually, the response that we were provided, the district said that they were going to, even if they use the training, they were going to make sure that they correct that. Yeah.
And your recommendation next month will be what?
A deficiency. That's the process that's in the administrative regulations.
In their accreditation. And
Correct.
A deficiency. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
No action
I think we're done.
there, and if there's
So then we just need
Sit down,
to
Brad.
look and see if we've got a motion to adjourn. Yeah, anything else? Okay,
I just want to hear it said.
okay.
Second.
All right, motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Mr. Clark.